brother. It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just the
Duo.
of feathery brethren, weathering any season to see the Eagles eating teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia. Bo and Zach kicking it cooler than
Two.
When still Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some Birds with Friends. The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some Birds with Friends. Bo and Zach coming at you with stats and things flapping.
We are going to rip out the hearts of other podcasts. We are going to bite off their eyeballs. We're going to start every segment watching the scene from The Last of the Mohicans where the guy takes a bite out of the other guy's heart. We may not be good, but we're going to be nasty. We're going to reflect the blue-collar nature of this city. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Birds with Friends on a Tuesday afternoon. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, Marissa Dunn here to talk about some slight news in Eagles world, take the temperature after the bye week. And then Philly is rocking. So in about a half an hour, we're going to bring on Matt Gelb, talk a little bit Phillies. You know, they go to the World Series. I feel like we can dip our beaks and, you know, maybe get some good stories of young Z-Berm along the way. Zach, how was your bye week? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for this podcast.
We were going to have Tyler Dunn on this episode, but we checked the bylaws of Birds with Friends, and it turned out that we're never allowed to have more Syracuse people on an episode than non-Syracuse people. So
no, we will be honest. I had a little producer scheduling error, so we're going to have him on later in the week. So that is on.
Well, I mean, Zach was coordinating it, and then he foisted it upon you. So let's not give you 100% of the blame.
No, it is. Give me the 100% of the blame, but we will have him on to talk about the tight ends. I have some questions about the jumbo tight ends, obviously, nice. You know, area of interest for me. So we will definitely have him on later this week. So you can expect
and
that.
Nobody has a tighter end than Matt Gelb.
Yeah. What?
It's better to spread out the Daily Orange alums over multiple episodes anyways. But no, I had a nice bye week. Similar to the Eagles, I did some self-scouting and excited for what's ahead post-bye here. I think you'll find better podcasts and better written material during these next 2 months, 3 months.
Well, give us a little peek behind the curtain then, Zach. What went into self-scouting for you, and what did you learn? What are the tendencies that you're trying to break that you can trip up opposing defenses on?
Ultimately, the proof will be in the product. So I don't want to give away what it is that is going to be different. And hopefully these podcasts are more insightful, we'll continue to work on different things, number one. And then I read my material since the start of training camp, because I did this during the summer as well, and see some things I can do better, some things that I want to maintain. So it's going to be a fun next few weeks. Excited. This is a big stretch for the Eagles. They're a Super Bowl contender, and our coverage needs to reflect that.
You spent the bye week going back and reading everything you wrote since the start of training camp?
Well, I didn't spend the entire bye week doing that. It's not as if that took
a skimmer,
me a week.
As we know, yeah.
No, I read those. And yeah, I did go back and do it. Now, not the practice observations, but
those are above reproach, it turns out.
No, but they're not necessarily constructive for what I'm doing these next. If I was preparing for I don't want to call it the backstretch of the schedule, but the next 3 months by reading practice observations, that would not be time well spent. That
will you
would
then
be
set aside time next summer to revisit those?
Yes, I will. Sure? A matter of fact, yes, before training camp next year. Yes, but no, we are so. I'll put it this way. I hope that our listeners and our readers enjoy what's to come.
Big tease. Bit of an OnlyFans drop in the bucket there, it feels like. Let me ask you this question. After reading everything you wrote since the start of training camp, what was the best thing that you wrote?
The best thing that I wrote, well, there's different sections of different stories that I liked. I thought the Marcus Epps piece was a good one. I liked parts of the Brandon Graham story.
Omar Epps one? Did you go back and read that, or
like parts of the Brandon Graham story?
I like the Brandon Graham story.
I think I had some good Jalen Hurts nuggets in a few of those pieces. But we don't need to discuss my stories. We're looking ahead here, and looking ahead, I'm excited for what's to come.
All right. Well, why don't we send it over to the Stone Cold Newsman now and see what's going on in Eagles world, since he's got his ear to the grindstone. Did you also go back and listen to every podcast?
Yes, not every podcast.
The look on Marissa's face of just pure horror.
I'm gonna chain you to a couch and just make you watch TV for 4 hours straight.
The first 9 minutes here have not gone as I've anticipated. Let's get back to the news at hand here. The Eagles had the week off, so not much as far as news, but they did sign Greg Ward to the practice squad. Greg Ward comes back. Greg Ward is someone who's respected in the building, and he could give them some wide receiver depth in case they need an elevation. Could give them some punt return depth as well. Also, since we last spoke, Christian McCaffrey has been traded. He went to the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think the Eagles were serious contenders in the Christian McCaffrey sweepstakes, but what that does do, is it bolsters the roster of another contender in the NFC, a potential threat for the Eagles in the postseason. And it also gives a spectrum into a window into what the Panthers are thinking. Now, ESPN reported on Sunday that a team offered 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns, and it has been turned down. That surprised me, frankly. I would take 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns. But the Eagles could still have some moves ahead of them here. So we are about a week from the deadline. I believe it's November 2nd. And you heard us give the preview in last week's episode. There's going to be more to come in the next week. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Zach. Well, you mentioned McCaffrey, and there were reports that the Eagles were involved to some degree, offered a mid-round pick, which makes sense. But this is actually what I want to talk to you about. The one that really jumped out to me is the trade the Jets made yesterday for James Robinson for a conditional 6th that can turn into a 5th. And let me just run this by you, Zach. In 2017, Jay Ajayi, at the time the Eagles traded for him and traded a 4th-round pick, had run for 1,924 yards at 4.3 yards a carry and had 308 receiving yards on his career. James Robinson, when he was traded to the Jets yesterday, 2,177 total rushing yards, more, 4.5 yards a carry, better, 612 receiving yards, better. Both players in the 3rd year of their rookie deal, so you would be trading for them and have them through next season. A 6th that can turn into a 5th for James Robinson. I was very surprised that the Eagles were not willing to pay that price. So let me run down the list of possible explanations, and you tell me which one sounds most correct to you. I have 5 here. One is they regret the Jay Ajayi trade. They don't think it was a good trade. Okay. 2, they don't like the player. They just, despite those numbers, they don't value the player that highly. 3, they don't think that the need is there to the same degree as they did in 2017. They think they're fine at running back. 4 is Doug Peterson told Trent Baalke, you're not allowed to trade players to the Jaguars, which I think does seem feasible. And 5, they're worried about Miles Sanders' feelings, that if you trade for a player of James Robinson's caliber to come into this, running back room, gross, that there is a possibility of messing up a chemistry that they have worked hard to build, and there is too much unknown on that line.
So a few things there. Just a quick correction here. But James Robinson, because he was an undrafted player, is a restricted free agent at the end of this year. So he's not. He doesn't have another year on his contract, but he is within team control. And the price for the 4th year for Ajayi and assuming it's not a 1st-round tender for James Robinson is probably comparable there. So that's a small thing. I think there
like an
are
exclusive rights free agent though.
no,
right?
he's restricted.
He is?
He's an RFA, so you have to give him a tender. I believe.
Why? It's only his third year.
Undrafted rookies sign 3-year deals, and then they're restricted free agents. They don't have standard 4-year. The 4-year contracts are for draft picks.
I think Michael's in the same position, so I think but his took longer because he was
you're
cut.
right.
But I think he's the same. Yeah.
So players who were on practice squad, they have
They've all accrued, so
they have the
you're right.
exclusive. Yeah. So
yeah.
but I don't think that factor
That does change the value. That does change. That does explain why they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Why
So
the value is not quite there.
And
A
I
few
think
things
can
to-
you only tender one player?
No,
RFA
you can get
No, you can tender.
no.
multiple.
Yeah. You can tender, but you tender them at different scales.
Right. Okay.
Number one, I don't think the Eagles view the need a running back the way they did in 2017. At 2017, I think they felt they needed more explosiveness from the backfield. If you're looking at fortifications in the backfield this year, you're probably looking more for a situational player. Okay, a third down back, someone to help with blitz pickup, perhaps in the passing game. That's number one. I don't think Miles Sanders' feeling has as much to do with it. Perhaps they do think they paid for Ajayi. I think Jay Ajayi was a bit more well regarded as a player than Robinson is.
I don't know why.
That's a fair conversation to have. Ajayi did come with injury risk. Now,
Yeah, exactly.
James Robinson is closer to the injury than Ajayi is. Nonetheless, I was a bit surprised by that compensation. I imagine that the Jets, the Jets were looking to obviously add it back after Breece Hall's injury happened pretty quickly. The Jaguars, I got to watch part of that game the other day, and they're doing what I expected them to do, which is feature ETN. So Robinson's role was
And they lost because of it.
Because of the fumble, you mean?
Yeah.
I would say they were in that game in large part because of ETN. By the way, if
they could have caught that double pass. Sorry,
if you read my if he could have caught that double pass, correct. If you read the picks, this is a bit of a flex, but if you read the picks the other day and you took the over on ETN's rushing yards, as was suggested in the player props, good for you. I hope that was a winning ticket for you.
How did you do this week? What was the record?
4-2.
All right.
A matter of fact, if you take away, I've always been in the green. If
only because you don't count the upset picks.
Oh, even if you do count the upset picks, yeah, okay. If you
I've
count
been
the
another
upset
week in the green. Didn't you have a losing week?
Oh yeah, no, but the overall record is in
Yeah.
the green. But if you remove the money line picks and simply look at the picks against the spread,
which you can't.
Of course you can do it. Okay,
you don't get free. Those aren't free rolls. You're still spending money.
You're looking at about a 65% hit rate. So,
and what's his face got over at the Ringer?
I would have to look that up. I honestly, I'll find out Thursday when the column comes out. But back to the conversation at hand here. I don't think the Eagles, the main thing is I don't think the Eagles view the need as pronounced as they did in 2017. That said, for that price, it would certainly be a worthwhile move to make. I mean, if you look at it, it's not that much different than what they paid for Kerry Vincent Jr. last year, right? And Kerry Vincent Jr. was not a part of.
Well, I was told that we've made too much of that we can't talk about that was bad value.
That is not what you were told. What you were told is that if you like the player, then it's worth it. Then it's a minimal price to pay if you like the player.
But you should also remind yourself that if you like the player and the team who knows the player more doesn't like the player, and nothing has changed since he was drafted at a lower valuation, then maybe take a beat, walk around the building for a second, and then rethink it and say, I don't need to keep a track record alive of making a trade every deadline.
The amount of time we've allocated on this podcast to low leverage trades between low leverage moves between Casey Toohill and Kerry Vincent Jr. I understand things are won and lost on the margin, but if we can learn anything from Dave Dombrowski and the Phillies transact, it's the heavy hitters that are ultimately going to win games for you.
I don't know, Zach. Maybe we'll tease that for later in the show. Those low-level trades might come back and help you one day. You never know.
Sure, but ultimately you're going to win or lose based on your Bryce Harper signing, your Kyle Sharper signing, your Zach Wheeler signing, your Nick Castellanos signing. Yeah.
And how are you doing? How are your arms doing this afternoon, Zach?
My arms are great. Excited for this podcast. Yes.
Are they sore?
No, my arms feel well.
Okay.
My arms are good.
Because you got the double vax today, which I thought you were trying to make up for the Phillies, all the unvaxxed players. You were trying to do your part to get them into the World Series healthy.
You were trying to set up that line, weren't you?
I was, yeah. And you didn't play along.
No. So overall, I'm curious to see what the moves are in these next few weeks. Howie Roseman usually waits until the deadline for these transactions, right? The Jay Ajayi trade was at the deadline. The Golden Tate trade was at the deadline. The aforementioned Kerry Vincent Jr. trade was at the deadline. The Isaac Sopoaga trade was at the deadline.
Good one.
Yeah, I could go on down the list.
Thank you for choosing me. That's a throwback. Only the sickest of the sickos are even going to know what I'm talking about there. But
yeah, so I would imagine that on Tuesday, when the city is either in their Phillies euphoria or their Phillies concern, Howie Roseman comes in with a transaction then.
You think he's going to try to steal the show?
I don't think it's stealing the show. That's literally when the trade deadline is. Oftentimes he makes trades at the deadline. That would not be stealing the show. Although, as our good friend Professor Selman pointed out to us, the schedule is conducive for Philadelphia fans here.
It lines up perfectly.
Yes. And I mean, if we can get a little bit of personal information on here, it could be conducive for us. If this series goes into a game 6, I might be on that app, move the flight back, and potentially check out a game 6 in Houston, right? We're already going to be there. Yeah. Flying out on Friday afternoon. What's a few more hours and you make your way to the ballpark?
I mean,
you got to do it. That'd be great content for the pod.
For sure. Maybe Bo and I can take it in together. Although,
although I would say that unlike you, I don't make unilateral decisions about childcare for my family. And so I would probably have to run that by the household just to make sure that that's okay.
Bo, respectfully, the conversation has already taken place. So what's the expression that offensive linemen say? Be ready or stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? If you have the conversation when the schedule comes out, you're not calling on Friday morning saying, can I stay an extra day, right? So, yes. So literally that discussion happened. It happened a little bit yesterday afternoon and again this morning. Yes.
Nice.
Hashtag Team Emily.
And did she have any self-scouting notes for you?
She said at one point, and again, don't like to talk about too much personal stuff here, but she said at one point, I thought the bye week, you don't have to work. And I said, well, no, I don't have to go into work. I do have to work. So, because I was writing a Jalen Hurts story last Wednesday, and then I was doing some self-scouting, like I said, on Thursday. And then Friday, I had a call I had to take. And so, yeah, so it wasn't self-scouting, but she was wondering why the bye week was a little fuller in terms of the workload than she had anticipated.
And of course, this was the first time she met you.
No, that is not. No.
Okay, so we talked about it last week, but has your opinion changed on if it's going to be a trade, you think it will be a running back or maybe a depth safety or maybe a depth or if they're going to make a big move, a pass rusher?
Yes, I would rank edge rusher top of that list. just because of the importance they place on it. And there is the playing time they were allocating to Derek Barnett, who it's going to Teron Jackson now,
and Patrick Johnson.
And Patrick Johnson, yes. But if that's Robert Quinn, for instance, right, that's an upgrade for you. Although the Bears are winning games right now.
And I think if you just talk about the market, there are more 30-year-old edge rushers who can give you a good 15 snaps a game available than there are, a reliable third safety. Because if there's a reliable third safety, he's probably a starter. What did you?
I see, by the way, Mr. Wing in our chat says Eagles trade for Hunt. I'll say this: we spoke last week about Dearness Johnson. If Hunt is available, that's a move you really need to look hard at, because he can fill those needs we were talking about on third down, and he changes your backfield. And if there's a Miles Sanders injury, that will be a good move. If Kareem
great
Hunt is
locker room
available.
guy.
I couldn't tell you one way or the other.
Well, remember we talked about when they had the joint practices, Nick Sirianni went out of his way to have a little meeting and quick catch up with Kareem Hunt. So something that's probably on their radar.
I am curious your question here. I certainly don't mean to take the host chair here. This isn't a trade deadline question, but before we pivot to the Phillies, this was a weekend where we had a chance to catch up with the NFL, although the Phillies were playing during the Sunday window. But are you buying the Giants? 6-1. Look, the NFC East is a good division here. The Giants, they
far and
might
away
have
the
been
best division in football right now.
A nice little story at 3 wins, 4 wins. You can't luck into 6-1. If you win 6 of 7 games, there's something to that.
Yeah, I am not buying them as a good team, but I am buying them as in a league where there aren't really many good teams. They have found something. I think they are well coached. I think the discrepancy, the gap between the way that they were coached and run under the past administration and this is enormous. And I think that it's hard to overstate that. But they have done things fundamentally to build around Daniel Jones's strengths and weaknesses and hide his weaknesses, which I wrote about in the power rankings this week. I think that there is something to, when a team wins so many close games like this and, they get to 6-1, there is sort of they start to believe in themselves aspect going on. But in terms of what they do and their talent and the way that they're winning games, I don't think that is a team that is going to make the Eagles nervous. They're past the Eagles' one weakness right now is run defense, and so maybe that's an interesting matchup against Saquon Barkley. But the way that the Giants are winning games does not strike me as a way that's going to lead to success against the Eagles.
I would agree that they're not. I don't view them as Super Bowl contenders, but like I said, you can't luck in to 6 wins in 7 games. And bigger than that, I look at how they're playing. The value of situational football cannot be overstated here, right? If you're tough on third downs, if you're tough in the red zone, that literally is going to make the difference in close games. And they're playing close games. Red zone defense is critical. Third down defense is critical, right? And we are seeing with the Giants how a team that, in my opinion, I don't think it's a controversial take, that they have marginal talent. They've had some nice upgrades, and certainly the line is playing better this year, although Evan Neal is injured now. But overall, when you're tough on third down and you're tough in the red zone, you're going to be in games. And then we talk about end of half situations. We talk about end of game situations. When you play well in those spots, that's the difference in 3-4 point games.
Yeah. What about the Cowboys? Did you watch any Cowboys?
I did watch
them last week. We saw them last week, but
I did watch Cowboys.
Dak did not look good to me.
No, I was thinking that, although Dak looks to Dalton Schultz a lot, right? And I think that's a part of when I watched the Cowboys before the Eagles played them, they weren't really engaging the tight end. Now Schultz was injured. Schultz was banged up then. They had Jake Ferguson in the lineup, but Schultz was fourth most catches or targets among tight ends in the NFL last year, and you saw going into the Eagles game a lot more Noah Brown, right? If they can get Dalton Schultz going, they obviously have a good backfield. We know about CeeDee Lamb, but I think that changes their offense a bit too.
All right, a lot of Dalton Schultz talk on this pod. Go ahead.
Do you think the McCaffrey trade? Do you think the McCaffrey trade changes things in the conference?
No, I don't. I think it's a deeply unserious move. Yeah.
And why is that?
Because they have an offense. They don't need a run. I know that they view that as he's a receiver just as much as a running back. He's the one blue chip player that was available to help us. We see the NFC as a potentially open opportunity. But no, I don't think that spending a second, a third, and a fourth on a running back who has had a lot of trouble staying healthy is good investment, especially after they've spent third-round picks on the position back-to-back years in an offense which they have proven to be able to make the most out of replacement-level running backs being productive.
Okay, now I
think there's a cronyism aspect to it here that plays into things. The McCaffreys and the Shanahans. I think John Lynch is a deeply unserious person. I think this is sort of anything that the 49ers accomplished this year is going to be on the backs of DeMeco Ryans. That's how I feel.
Now, I hear your point, and the injury concern is real, especially when you're giving up those types of draft picks. I think you're too fixated on the position here, and I know you're going to roll your eyes when I say positionless players, but if a team acquired a wide receiver who has a 17-game who their per 17-game stats is
and has never played a 17-game season.
I'm just saying their per 17-game stats is 100 catches, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. If they acquired a wide receiver like that, you would fundamentally view it differently.
No,
Christian
Cole
McCaffrey,
Beasley's on the street. They could have signed him if they wanted to.
Okay, Christian McCaffrey. I think it's disrespectful to Christian McCaffrey to say he's Cole Beasley. This is someone who in 2019 had 116 catches, 1,000 receiving yards. In 2018,
for a running back 3 years ago, might as well be in the Paleozoic era.
Okay, I am not disputing the injury risk here. The injury risk is considerable, but if Christian McCaffrey is on the field, if you take a 49ers team that their defense was arguably the best in the league before this, certainly top 5 in the league, you already have to contend with Deebo Samuel. Okay, I think you already have to contend with George Kittle. I was bullish on Trey Lance going into the year. I think Trey Lance's injury took something away from what that offense could do. But now if you're a defensive coordinator and we use Sheil Kapadia's sweat test, right? What's going to make you sweat? Now you have to account for Christian McCaffrey in a different way than you had to worry about Jeff Wilson Jr., in a different way than you had to worry about Elijah Mitchell when Mitchell came back from injury. If you're in a playoff game against the 49ers, and you have to go up against that defense, and now you're looking at Christian McCaffrey if he's on the field, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle, that would concern me. So I think that it was a heavy price to pay. I know McCaffrey's salary had something to do with his value, at least this year. But I think that is a trade that affects the way you look at the 49ers offense in a playoff game.
I mean, yeah, sure, but they still have a human interception machine at quarterback. I think the rest of the conference is going to be just fine.
So, who do you worry about in this conference? What team? If you need,
I'm trying to get to the break so we can bring in our guest who's sitting in the waiting room. Sorry. But maybe he has an answer on.
We will table that and discuss that on our end of the week show. Okay, because that's a worthwhile discussion.
That's a good tease. Yeah. Good. That was good self-scouting. You wanted to get better at teases coming into the post buy. So good job. All right, let's take a little break. Come back. Talk to Matt Gelb for his in-depth scouting report on the Steelers defense.
Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. Mental health is important in the sports world, from athletes taking time off to tend to mental health issues to the everyday importance of being focused. I've seen this up close in my coverage with two of the outstanding players I've covered, missing time while navigating mental health challenges. More athletes are speaking out about the importance of mental health, but you don't have to be a pro to want to be at the top of your game. Everyone needs to take care of their mental well-being, whether you're an athlete or not. Therapy is the best way to stay in peak mental shape. Therapy can be beneficial, from helping you feel like yourself, less stressed, and more confident. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists anytime. When you're ready to feel at the top of your mental health game, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/BWF today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/BWF. Ambitious hiring goals for the last quarter of 2022? With a powerful hiring partner, big goals are no big deal. You need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Something I like about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy, because with Indeed, you can select the skills that matter to you most. You customize your job post with a selection of over 100 Indeed assessment tools and find the candidates with the right skills fast. And Indeed has a jaw-dropping pool of talent. In fact, 3 out of 4 U.S. online job seekers search for jobs on Indeed each month, according to ComScore. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to sponsor your job post at Indeed.com/podcast. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. I am not reporting this. This is from our Matt Gelb, our Ken Rosenthal. When I say our, the Athletics. Matt Gelb, the Athletics, Ken Rosenthal.
You're saying you don't feel kinship to Matt Gelb?
Yeah. Logan, is it O'Hop? I've worked on my NFL pronunciations, but not my Major League Baseball ones. But he's the Phillies' top catching prospect, traded to the Angels for Brandon Marsh. So the Phillies get some outfield
That's what you interrupted my big training camp take? My big description of the limitations and the excitement of training camp? You're giving me Brandon Marsh for Logan O'Hop?
So
we're getting Carlos Rodon here.
I received 3 texts. So actually, they, according to some other people I just see here, Jeff Fass and the Phillies are getting David Robertson as well, in a separate deal. But no, I received texts.
The same David Robertson?
The one they had last year, yeah. So
Wow. Great work, Marissa. And with that, we bring on Matt Gelb. Mr. Gelb, is this your first podcast?
Oh, you're muted, Matt.
You're muted. Apparently it is.
This isn't my first podcast, but this is the most nervous I've ever been for a media appearance in my life. I am honored to be here.
I guess there are like several questions that I want to ask. The first one is for a man of your general disposition. What has it been like being surrounded by so much joy for the past couple of weeks?
You know what? It's funny because I've been the higher man on this team for a while now. Like I have. I mean, I think it was reflected in the coverage. I thought in August, this was a team that was like clearly making the postseason. and possibly a team that had a chance to do something. September wasn't very good. And it's funny because a month ago today, they would have been just about to lose their second game to the Cubs right there and right in the middle of a sweep to the Cubs a month ago today. And it's crazy. I mean, this has been the craziest month I've ever had covering this team. Just everything that happened. There was a 17-day road trip in the middle of that, and I was on that whole trip, and it was unbelievable how this has all come together. But there's been a lot of joy. I know I'm generally a cynical
You
kind
are?
of person. Yeah, I am. But it's been a lot of fun to be around it, and I thought they would make the playoffs. I thought maybe they'd win one round. I did not expect this. Don't think anyone expected this. Even the players in the clubhouse. Some guys will say, always believe, always believe. It's just funny though, running into some guys during these celebrations and just kind of get the exchange looks on with some of these guys, and they're just like, they can't believe it. I mean, they really can't. It's not that they didn't think they could do it. It's just, this is crazy.
Go ahead, Zach. I don't know if you guys need to introduce yourselves to each other.
You preface that by saying you have a lot of questions here, so I didn't know if you were going down.
My follow-up question is, the 17-day road trip, the playoffs. How? I mean, now that they're in the World Series, I'm sure that she wants them to finish the job. But your lovely wife, Allison, how angry is she at this Phillies run? I mean, you got 2 kids at home. Let's get back to being a dad.
She's been really conflicted this whole time. She's really excited for me to be on this podcast. She's a big fan, and you guys know that. So I think I think the fact that they made the World Series and that's how I got on this podcast. The Phillies have been playing for 140 years, and they've made the World Series 8 times. That's all it took for me to get on Birds with Friends, and I think she's most excited about that. But I think she's going to go to one of the games at home, so she's super excited about that. She was actually at the resumption of Game 5 of 2008. She was there with her dad, so she saw that game, and that she's going to go to the 2022 World Series. How crazy is that?
Wow, this run has lasted long enough that the kids can take care of themselves.
It's good. It's been so long.
So first off, it's great to see you virtually here. The work has been outstanding, especially during these past few weeks. Make sure for all our listeners, I'm breaking the fourth wall here, but make sure you're reading Matt every day because he's making it worth it.
I don't think that the fourth wall applies when you're having when a podcast is talking to the audience.
Well, I'm talking to Gelb at this moment, but let me ask you this, because we're all watching this, okay? And we've been watching it. A lot of us have been watching it throughout the season. Some of us have been stepping in just during the postseason. You said that this has been, you talked about how fun this past month has been, and these glances that you're exchanging with the players that they're not expecting it. What's the secret sauce? What insight do you have about what's going on here that you have to have been, boots on the ground with this team in Clearwater since late February to really appreciate what's happening?
I think the biggest thing, ZB, is that once they got in, I don't know, there was just this freeing effect on this entire organization. Once they just got in and ended all that talk about these late season collapses, about how, the Phillies had spent so much money and got nothing in return for it, and about how they got all these star players and none of them could get past that threshold and into the postseason. Once they got in, there was this freeing effect, and I attribute a lot of it to Kyle Schwarber, who I've written about, at various points of the season about his presence in the clubhouse. I mean, he's been huge. I mean, not just on the field and the home runs that he's hit and the walks that he's drawn atop the lineup, but he's just got this something about him. He's finally got a chance to be the guy in the clubhouse. He didn't necessarily have that before in his career, and he really wanted it. He's always wanted it. And he talked about the postseason being baseball at its purest. And it is very cliche and cheesy. And he's not wrong, though. Nick Castellanos has not had a good postseason. But what do you remember about Nick Castellanos' postseason? You remember him having that one game in Atlanta where he made that great catch, had a big hit. You remember him catching the last out that sends them to the World Series. You don't remember that he's been swinging at every friggin' pitch and doing weird things. Like, you don't remember that.
I think
and
some people remember that. But yeah,
maybe some people remember that, but they're the cynical ones that that's baseball is purest. Like they don't track stats in the playoffs. I know we're tracking what Bryce Harper has done, but really you don't. You don't remember someone's 0 for 4. You remember that the Phillies won or lost. Simply, that is it. And that has had some kind of unifying effect for this team. The short of it, like if you want to get into nuts and bolts, I mean, they had acquired really strong. They've spent their money well. They've acquired star players, and they have played very well for them over these last few years. They didn't have enough depth to get through 162 and to get into this postseason tournament. They got enough depth. They got more depth this year that let them sustain injuries to Harper, to Segura, when Wheeler went down, for example. Depth doesn't matter as much in October. And this was a team that was always built for October if they could just get there, and they couldn't get there all those years. And now that we've seen them in October, you just see their best players just reaching a new level. And Harper is the obvious example, but it's the pitchers. It's Nola, Wheeler, and Dominguez. It's Hoskins and Real Muto. These guys have just reached a different level this postseason, and they're their best players. They just had to have a chance.
Well, if I can follow up, by the way,
do.
I don't mean to jump on you there, Bo, but this was something I've been pining to ask. And we discussed team building a lot on this podcast, obviously football centric. Dave Dombrowski, successful story general manager, one of the best in modern history in terms of winning. But he has been somewhat of a polarizing figure in the baseball community, for some of the prospect deals he's made. What has he done? How much credit, recognition does he deserve for what's happened here? Or is it simply that their best players are playing best in big moments?
I think he definitely deserves some credit. I mean, he installed more accountability, I think, in the front office and the way things are run in their baseball operations. And really, he put the finishing touches on this team. I mean, no, he did not acquire Harper. He didn't acquire Real Muto. He didn't acquire Wheeler. Didn't acquire Nola. He didn't acquire many of these guys really at all. His best move under the radar, I guess, at this point you look at is probably Alvarado. That was his first trade, actually. It was a pretty small trade at the time. And who would have thought that Jose Alvarado would become what he's become? But he has. And
I'm a big man. I can take it.
He can take it. He can. He wants to pitch every game. Dombrowski, he's the first executive in baseball history to take 4 different teams to the World Series, right? I mean, this guy wants to win. That's pretty much that is his objective. And as you noted, ZB, he's done it at all costs at times. I think what's interesting with regards to how he's run the Phillies is he hasn't done it at all costs. There were guys that they could have traded in July, big prospects, and gotten better players in return. Bo wanted Carlos Rodon, according to that clip that I just heard. And they could have had Carlos Rodon if they wanted to trade some of their better prospects. They didn't. They traded some good players, no doubt, but they didn't go all in. And maybe Dombrowski would have done that in the past. Maybe there's a little bit of evolution here, but the guy likes to win. He wants to win, and people say that, but he has a way of just figuring it out. And this team needed somebody to push him over the hump, and Dombrowski was a pretty good bet to do that. He's also great with convincing owners to spend money. And the Phillies paid luxury tax this year for the first time in franchise history. And that was because Dave Dombrowski told the owners that they should.
All right. You've got 100 fills. Disperse the 100 fills appropriately for credit between Dombrowski, Topper, the hitting, and the pitching.
The pitching is going to get the most, I think. What credit for what? Credit for making the World Series, or credit? I don't know. What do we?
Credit for making the World Series.
The pitching gets the most. I don't know. The pitching gets 60. I don't know. The pitching has been unbelievable. I mean, they've think about it. Like, everyone's making a big deal about how the Astros are undefeated, and they are quite good. They are a very good baseball team.
I don't believe that I've ever in my life seen Jeremy Pena make an out. I mean, I've watched him play
amazing.
Like 4 games, but
yeah, they have a deep team. They have all these pitchers that have won World Series games in the past. They haven't even thrown a pitch yet this postseason because they haven't needed them. The pitching has been amazing. The Phillies have played 11 postseason games. They've won 9. They haven't faced elimination yet. And because they've taken care of business, they've been able to align the pitching in each series the way they want it to be. And that's allowed them to maximize Nola and Wheeler, and also in the bullpen, Dominguez, Alvarado, Eflin, Robertson, I guess, to an extent, although I don't know how much I trust David Robertson right now. But Nola and Wheeler, to me, deserve the most credit. These are two guys who, Wheeler, for one, had never pitched in a postseason. There's a lot of questions about how does he handle this moment? How does he come back from missing a month? He's having one of the greatest postseasons ever for a starting pitcher. And then Nola, of course, what was the narrative about Aaron Nola? That he couldn't finish a season. He couldn't come up big in the biggest moments. And all this guy's done is just totally rewritten the story of his career with how he's performed in the last month. And it's been really remarkable to watch. And I think that's been the most fun. It's not just Nola and Wheeler. It's like watching each guy who hasn't been here before embrace the moment and sort of seize the moment. And it hasn't been the same guy every time. Sure, it's been a lot of Bryce and a lot of Nola and a lot of Wheeler, but there have been moments for just about everybody on the roster kind of taking advantage of these opportunities that they're getting. And I'll go 60 the pitching, 50 the pitching, 20 the hitting, 10 what am I? 20 to Thompson and 10 to Dombrowski.
All right, that's good respect for Topper.
But
yeah.
I think Rob Thompson he's really put a lot of given these guys a lot of confidence. He has a way about him that baseball players really relate to and gravitate to. He has this incredible dry wit. I wrote about it earlier in the postseason, and some people were reading it and they're like, this just sounds like the guy is just really insulting and being mean to the players. And I was like, I guess if you read it, that's how it comes off. But that's baseball players love dry humor. They love busting each other's balls, for lack of a better term. And
that's Zach's everyday life.
And Rob Thompson has a great way of doing it. He really does, and it's unexpected because it comes from this really mild mannered, quiet Canadian, 59-year-old Canadian, and it's quite the dry wit that he has. So maybe he deserves more credit for this. I'm one who tends to believe that the players.
I feel like that was a lot of credit that you gave him. Yeah. 20 fills. That's pretty big.
What a story, though. I mean, Rob Thompson. What a story. I mean, it's just one. It's one amazing story in a collection of a lot of crazy stories, really.
Speaking about players, you had a line in. I don't know if it was if you considered a running story or just a place filler story the other day. Just the quick few paragraphs you had when they clinched, and it was about Bryce Harper, and you essentially said he's been groomed for this moment, and there's never been an expectation that he hasn't met. And I thought that was an interesting way to frame it because he's. I can only think of one, but he's someone who the four of us here.
Expectation.
The four of us here and. I imagine all of those who are listening and watching, he's almost grown up on our television sets, or in our magazines. I remember 2009. I think it was June, early June, when that Sports Illustrated came out with him on the cover, and just seeing his career progress. Obviously, the clinching home run the other day. You've had a ground floor view to the entire Phillies career here, from the pursuit of him to obviously these first few years. I hate to say talk about Bryce Harper, but what insight do you have on is how special, for lack of a better way of framing the question, is what's going on right now with Bryce Harper?
Bryce Harper, your thoughts? I think what's so amazing about that home run is that I'm sure there's a lot of people who after he hits it, you're like, I called it. I said it, I knew he would do it. And it's nothing about what Bryce Harper does is unbelievable in a lot of ways. And that is probably the most amazing thing about him is that, like you said, I mean, we've watched, this guy's been in the public spotlight for so long, longer than really most professional athletes should be, or, typically are. And it's been really fun to watch him on the biggest stage here, right? Because you're always wondering, what was it going to look like when Bryce Harper got to this moment? What was it going to look like? He never got past the NLDS when he was with Washington. So the NLCS was the furthest. So now he's in the World Series. And, watching him on a day-to-day basis, I see a guy who is probably one of the most driven athletes I've ever been around. And that's not, I mean, he does things his own way. He does. I mean, he works a lot. And what he does is he does it. He doesn't take batting practice outside. He's not typically working with his teammates. I mean, he has his thing. Like, he has a routine and he does his own thing. And he knows what he needs and what he wants. And he's not afraid to ask for it. And maybe that's just because of, who he is, I guess. But he's on his own program. He does his own thing. And I think, like, I mean, this is not to insult him. I mean, like, he's a world-class pander. Like, he knows what
him and Sirianni could have like a real pander off.
And I'm not dissing Bryce here. Like, I just think he knows what to say. He knows how to say it. He knows when to say it. And quite honestly, I don't know that there's a lot of thought that goes into that. I think he's just wired that way. Because he's been exposed to the spotlight that long. His parents have been around a lot through this stretch, down the stretch run here, and his love for his family. I mean, I think becoming a father, him and I both became a father about the same time, and now we both have 2 kids, and we talk about that a lot. And I think that's something that's definitely changed him in his time here in Philadelphia. I think it's amazing to watch, where he was when he came back from the broken thumb. He was really bad in September. I mean, he was searching for it, and it took one swing. Like, it was that game 2 in St. Louis. He takes that for one swing on a first pitch hanger and just absolutely crushes it to the full side. It was the first time he pulled a ball in weeks. And ever since that moment, he's been the best player on the planet. And I don't know how to explain it other than it's just Bryce. And, like, how could you expect anything less?
Zach and I had talked, I think after they clinched the NLDS, about how it seems like Rhys Hoskins is sort of your muse. Like, you sort of right through Rhys Hoskins. Does it work both ways? Like, when he needs a big hit, does he look up in the press box and try to find your eye?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But yeah, Rhys and Nick Castellanos has really become my go-to here in the postseason. Nick was pretty miserable for the majority of the season, and understandably so. He felt like he was not fulfilling the contract, $100 million deal, and he was really having a poor season at the plate, and got hurt in September. And starting with that win, the first game where they come back and Dean Segura gets a big hit in St. Louis to start the postseason, and that did really set the tone for this entire playoffs, because they were like, oh, like, hey, not that it was easy, but it's like, oh, we can do this. We just came back on the Cardinals and won a game, and, like, hey, here we are. Castellanos has been so happy and so thoughtful and so willing to share those thoughts. And now we just have a thing where, like, I always just try to find him in every champagne celebration, and he has something he wants to share, and it's been a lot of fun. But yes, Hoskins, we've
because he's the guy who's been through it.
Yeah, and we've had moments like I wrote something, that was probably a little too over the top critical. It was a couple of years ago when he said, don't forget to write. Phillies had blown a terrible game in New York, a bunch of mistakes in the field, and he said, don't forget to write about the positive things. Like, he didn't just say it to me. He said it was on a Zoom call back during the pandemic, and I kind of dinged him a little bit for that, and I know why he was saying it. He was trying to pump up his teammates a little bit because it was a tough time, but I appreciate Rhys for who he is and what he is, and I think the people in the city who appreciate him even before this run that he's gone on in the postseason, I think it's really rewarding for them as fans to watch a guy who has seen a lot of bad baseball here, who has taken a lot of heat, probably undeservingly, have his moment. And amazing, right? I mean, just think about some of these moments, and they're going to play those clips over and over again, like, forever here. And how cool is that for him?
I know baseball series are not broken down like a football game, where we talk about this coordinator and
wait, can I say something?
Yes.
You guys are going to be in Houston, right?
Yes, we discussed this. Yeah.
Sort of,
yeah. So
when he says we, he means him and Emily.
Yes.
I thought you were going to ask me where I went on my honeymoon. Is that something that I'm supposed to answer? Is that part
No,
of getting on the podcast?
that's not necessary. That's not necessary discussion. No, we do.
Also, the street you grew up on and your mother's maiden name, please.
If this gets to game 6, if this gets to game 6, then yeah, I'll be there trying to change my flight and trying to get a ticket.
And Gelb wants to be there Thursday night.
Yeah, I want to go to the Eagles game.
That'd probably be an easier ticket to get.
I think it was like $60 again. I did look on StubHub, just was curious.
But no, so I know we don't break this down the way football games are broken down, but if you can put your football writer hat on for a second, what's this matchup for the Phillies? What should I guess, where do they have the advantage? Where is the mismatch? And what's it going to take for them to upset a team that hasn't lost this postseason?
I will answer this as best as I can, but I'll be honest with you. I've given up trying to put actual analysis on this, right? I mean, they've been underdogs for every series. People were asking me, am I going to write a book? And I said, and I don't know if I'll do that or not, but I also want to know.
Talk about
I
titles.
want to know, I was going to say, has anyone ever written a book called Underdogs before? Mm-hmm. Is that title taken? No? Is that
there's about 18 copies here. And Gelb was a big part of that.
Can you steal Bedlam at the Bank, or will
Bedlam at the Bank? That's good. I've given up trying to analyze this.
How about everybody hits?
If they outslug the Astros in the World Series, sure, I guess that title would work. But where do they have the advantages? I don't know. Confidence? I'm not sure if they have any on-field advantages. If you stack them up, I know they do, but it's tough. They have to follow the formula that they followed in the previous series. They need to just steal one in Houston somehow. And it's not far-fetched when you're going to start Nola and Wheeler in those games. It'll take a lot to do it, but it takes a really good starting pitching performance from one of those guys and the timely hitting, and you steal one game.
And what's the reason behind that flip-flop?
Well, I don't know if that's officially what they're going to do yet, but I think that is what they will do, because Nola was going to pitch the next game, Game 6 in San Diego. Thank God. I mean, I'm impartial. I don't root for anyone. I was really happy they won, and we did not have to go back to San Diego. I love San Diego too, but I didn't want to get on a flight through Phoenix at 7 a.m., get into San Diego at about noonish for a 5 o'clock local time game. There was no travel day. That would have been a 22-hour day, and I was really excited that it didn't happen. So thank you to Bryce Harper for hitting that home run and giving me a couple days here at home where I can reintroduce myself to my children. And the flip-flop, I think Nola would have started Game 6. If they do this, it gives Wheeler an extra day, which I think he could really use right now. Nola would be on his 9th day if he pitches in Game 1. I think he'd have 8 days rest, and Wheeler would end up pitching on his 6th day, so he'd have 5 days rest. So I think that's why they'll do that. Don't hold me to that, though. They haven't announced it. The Astros bullpen is a real challenge for the Phillies. Their bullpen is tremendous. They're going to put Justin Verlander out there in Game 1. He's going to win the Cy Young this year. He's amazing. Yordan Alvarez is probably the best or not named Bryce Harper left, that was standing in the entire postseason. He's really hard to get out. The Astros are hard to beat in Houston, period. It's an intimidating place to play. It's a stadium that is made for that team, the way it's designed. They cater their team to it, just the dimensions and just the way it plays. And they've kind of built the team around it because the stadium was there before this team went on this run. And I don't know. I mean, there's not a lot of advantages to the Phillies. There's not. The Astros do an amazing job of exploiting another team's weakness. They're so good at it. And what's one of the Phillies' weaknesses? That's their defense. The Astros their strikeout percentage was second lowest in baseball this year. If they put the ball in play, they're going to test the Phillies defense. And I know people are sick and tired of hearing about how bad the Phillies are at defense because here they are in a World Series and it hasn't mattered. And it hasn't. I mean, they've made some mistakes, but they've been able to cover them up or just move past them. Maybe they do it again. I don't know. But this is the toughest team they're going to face. I think that's pretty clear. The other 3 opponents they've had were good teams, but the Astros are on a different level. But I don't know, like the Phillies probably end up winning the World Series just because. Like, I mean, how can you explain how they got here? So how could you explain, whether they'd win or lose this? So I've given up analyzing. Sorry.
Marissa, it's not like they're we need to find reasons to hate the Astros. They're
plenty.
Plenty out there. But having just watched the series, give us something else. What else?
I just feel like every guy that comes up, you're like, you feel like they could hit it out, or they could just hit a double, and then they start this whole run, and it's like, and obviously the Yankees are a home run hitting team, and I'm like, okay, but I just, even watching the Yankees, I'm like, I don't have that same feeling every time the Astros are up at bat. So, and that stadium is like haunting. Like, I mean, it's full of orange, and I mean, like the Phillies stadium, the bank is packed too, and like wild, but I just feel like, I don't know, there's something about playing there.
There's something about their knockoff Fanatic mascot too, right? I mean, like I've always thought he was like the illegitimate son of the Fanatic, and he's
of which there must be many.
He's a cheap, he's a cheap knockoff. He really is. Orbit. I don't know. I don't dig Orbit.
Yeah, and he like causes so much like trouble, and like he's not really like, he's more like a heckler and not really like a fun mascot. So yeah, the Fanatic is definitely better. I will be pulling real hard for the Phillies, though, obviously. So.
Gelb, quick question in the chat, important one from Grace. Which version of Dancing on My Own do you prefer, Robbins or Tiestos?
I mean, Robbins.
I mean, come on.
And that's the problem, is that everyone's like, oh, I don't even know how you say his first name. Calum? Sorry, am I showing my? They're like, oh, we got to get him. Got to get him to Citizens Bank Park to perform. I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool, but like they should get Robin to come to Citizens Bank.
Yes.
But that's not the version that they play, though.
I know, but I mean,
that's why when Bo was giving me a hard time on the podcast, which
Batman's and Robin.
Yeah, when he was giving me a hard time about the song, that's not the song that they're singing. The one I know is the Tiesto version. Yeah,
I was actually thinking about how.
What if they got them both?
Now you're talking. And maybe you know what, Gelb, maybe you can use this for a gamer. I think that the lyrics to "Show Me Love," her earlier hit, are actually better emblematic of the relationship between the Phillies and the city at the moment.
Well, I want to ask you guys something. Like, can you compare? People have been asking me to compare, and it doesn't compare, I don't think, to 08 because there was a more gradual buildup, right? You saw some of these homegrown players come up over the years. They were 7 back with 17 to play in 2007. They got into the playoffs. They got swept. Then the next year, you kind of knew something was coming. Something was building toward 08. This has been not like that, in my opinion. It's been more like, I think, the Eagles run to the Super Bowl after Wentz goes down, and there's just this kind of like uncertainty hovering over this team. There's maybe some pessimism regarding the club. Even getting into the playoffs like the Eagles did. Does this compare at all? Do you feel like the energy and like the vibes, I guess, you're getting like from the city to that run? How does it compare?
I think we should let the guy who wrote the book take this one.
Well, no, I mean, both you and I covered that team. We're both equipped to answer this. And I'll give a shout out to our former co-host Sheil here.
Are we allowed to say his name? Do you guys talk about him?
I do. He deserves that respect.
You're the first person who I used to do a podcast. Actually, that's not true because Fran Duffy has been on and C-Mac have both been on the show. So you're actually the third person we're allowed to talk about.
But Sheil says that like the most fun seasons are the ones you don't expect, right? And it's hard to call a team that has Bryce Harper and is paying the luxury tax and has all these $100 million, or all these 8-digit contract players, or no, I'm sorry,
9 digits.
No, 8 digit for annual salary.
We all went to journalism school. It's okay.
That's what I meant.
I mean, it depends how far you carry it after the decimal point.
It's hard to call that. It's hard to call that group like underdogs. But I think this market in particular gravitates toward the nobody believes in us, everyone counts us out, right? The team that's like pole to pole, that's not the team that I think gets that endears themselves as much. Everyone wants to see a winner, but if you were like first place on if you're expected to win and you go all the way through, it's not quite the same as the team that galvanizes the city at a certain moment, right? And that's why Jason Kelsey made that comment during training camp that in his time, the teams that were expected to be good were, and I think he used the word shitty. And then, the inverse is obviously true. I think there's something to that, right? Like the comparison I would give is that they were a team that had been counted out. They were a team that was considered the underdog, and they're a team that people can get behind, right? People got behind.
Uh-oh. Wow. This is amazing.
Wow.
Usually this is you, Bo. I'm witnessing something really amazing.
And the drama building here, because he could say anything. Get behind what?
Fill in the blank for him, Bo.
Did you upgrade your internet? This is pretty good quality you have here.
This is going to be tough. Is he back? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Got behind.
I never left. I don't know where you lost me here, but yeah,
get behind.
People can get behind this group of players. They can there's characters on this team that I think resonate with the fan base, and they've also it's been dramatic, right? That's the other part too. The Eagles, that team had some dramatic wins. That Atlanta win that they had in the playoffs, that was a dramatic win. The Minnesota one was just a party. That was a blowout. But obviously the Super Bowl, that was a dramatic game. I think the flair for the dramatic had something to do with it as well.
I've sort of been thinking about like the how much the city has gotten behind it, and like the atmosphere at the stadium, which has seemed so awesome. And like I was talking to somebody who was like, didn't Philadelphia like not care about this team a month ago? And I think that's true. And I think what the dynamic is like, I think what's great about, and I can do my Bryce Harper, Nick Sirianni pandering here, like Philadelphia fandom, is that like if you don't deserve to be loved, they don't like, then they're not going to love you. Like it's not just a one-way street of fawning. But if you turn it on and you are a team that deserves to be loved, like you guys deserve to be loved, they're going to love you with everything, right? And I think like the atmosphere and like just the feel in the city has been awesome the past couple weeks just because of that.
The team that I would compare it to the most is probably
the 2008 Syracuse basketball.
No, I was gonna say the 01 Sixers. That's who they remind me of. Straight down to that Sixers team was going to play Shaq and Kobe, right? And now the Phillies are and actually
and that team is loved to this day, even though they just lost in the finals.
I believe that Lakers team had not lost in the postseason until game one in Los Angeles. So you see that comparison there. And Allen Iverson was, I mean, he's not the same as Harper, but
similar star power. Yeah.
So that's the team I would really compare it to is the 01 Sixers.
I dig that. I like that.
Yeah, they were imperfect, but they worked together. So
do you think that they would be in the World Series if Everybody Hits was still going?
You have a lot of ex-Lover podcast hosts, so I don't know if this is my fault or really. I think it's your fault, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But what do you think Adam Grassi is doing these days?
I don't know. We got canceled pretty hard, though. I mean, I hope people know, like, this wasn't necessarily like, I don't think anyone's heard even the demise or
cancel culture. We got
canceled. Amok. Yeah, we got canceled by the Athletic.
Yeah, pandemic layoffs.
It happens, it happens. But I mean, I'm glad you guys have just you're not still just going strong. I mean, you're thriving here. You really are.
That's for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. No, you do have another podcast. I will let you plug.
I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I've been doing another podcast. It's called Phillies Therapy with a former Phillies blogger, and he's like Paul is. He has a real world job that doesn't involve baseball or sports, and I love Paul's perspective on just about everything Phillies, and it's fun to then combine. He's a fan, and I'm somebody who covers the team. It's been fun to kind of combine those two perspectives and just talk about the Phillies, and so you can listen to it wherever you listen to your podcast. I don't have have any awkward ad reads like ZB does. I thought those were really professionally read. I want to know who you're hiring and when you're doing that hiring. I really want to know more about that.
Well,
I
if
mean,
you
if
want to
he
know
needs
more
a quality
about it,
control coach if he's going to get all that self scouting done.
Who did the Eagles play this week? Did they play?
Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, Kenny
The
Pickett.
Steelers.
Yeah.
That's been the worst. I mean, there's been a lot of great out of this, but I've lost football season here. I've totally been not been able to pay attention at all to football, which has been kind of a disappointing byproduct of all this. But the Eagles are pretty good.
Yeah, they're undefeated.
I know people are upset in the comments. I can tell they're like, "Are we still talking about the Phillies?" Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll go.
I actually think Bo's going to steal this tactic of saying, "I'm done giving analysis on this team." Yeah, I think that's going to be Bo's new thing. When I'm like,
I do have some
like
things
it feels
to
like a
say
shot,
and
but
think
I'll
about.
take it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a joke. It was a joke. Yes.
When you got to the Super Bowl, didn't you feel the same way? I mean, it was like you're trying to figure out how they're going to win that game, but at this point, you're like, I can give you all the reasons why they will win or why they won't win, but in the end, like I don't know. I mean, like there's just something about them right now. I mean,
Absolutely.
they've beaten, they've gotten way further than they should have gotten. So there's something to that.
I said something similar. I think I vividly recall this. Sounds like a flex, but I was on. I was on Philly Sports Talk Live.
R.I.P.
Another canceled show.
In the Mall of America, and Barkan asks me for my prediction. And I'm like, I can give you all the reasons why, like, the Patriots have the advantage in this game. But ultimately, like, it's hard to pick against the Eagles with the way they're playing right now. I think I said the Eagles have the advantage at the line of scrimmage. That ultimately is an equalizer in games. But my analysis was, like, with the way the Eagles are playing, it's hard to pick against them. And so I suppose the Phillies have that type of quality.
I mean, this is a one point where I will give credit. Not quite as good of a prediction as what's his face had. But
yes. Okay. Fair enough.
You try to prepare for an interview when you have a star guest like this, and so I did ask around. There was one question left on my list that I was told to make sure to ask you during that 17-game road trip at the end of the regular season and in the beginning of the playoffs. How much Chipotle did you eat?
Maybe 3 times, I think. Maybe 2 or 3 times. It wasn't many. That bad. Yeah, it wasn't that many.
Not the best tip I got from a man I desperately love and would wish to have back in my life more.
I don't remember. I did run into. I've run more recently into another member of the Wulf family than you, Bo, during that trip. I ran into. I'm not allowed to talk about him, but I ran into your brother.
With a car?
No.
Is this a Bayheim thing?
Yeah, it was a hit and run, actually.
That's not nice. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's really not nice.
This is live.
This is live.
No,
this is live. This is live.
I mean, it's a thing that happens.
Of friends. Yes.
I probably, and this is like, I'm really showing out. Like, I probably ate more Sweetgreen than I ate Chipotle because there's a Sweetgreen right near Nationals Park, and there was a Sweetgreen right near my hotel in Chicago. So that was what I ate a lot for lunch on that trip. I did do laundry.
That's who that was.
I did do laundry, and I tried to submit the expense, through our expense system. You guys are well aware of this, the situation. And I got $10 worth of like coins. Don't have a receipt for that or anything, but it finally just got approved. I did laundry in St. Louis.
You could have just pretended it was a meal because you don't need a receipt for a $10
it probably would have
meal,
been
right?
much easier to get that reimbursed than trying to explain why I was doing laundry at the end of that trip.
Well, you're by the book.
That's right.
Gotta appreciate that. All right. Well, you have been very generous.
It's probably easier than getting the cameos that we had for the Ospreys expensed. So,
Hey,
yes,
they were.
Yes, that's true.
That's true.
Wow, you've expensed that.
Most of them, yeah. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure running it back, Mr. Gelb. We will all be reading and listening throughout the World Series. Maybe we'll get to see you in Houston.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to see an Eagles game live, and that'd be a lot of fun.
And I don't know, any party shots at Zach or like leftover feuds from like 15 years ago that you'd like to settle?
No, I feel bad that I haven't seen either of you guys in person in a long time. I mean, that's I can't just walk over to your house anymore in the city. I'm sorry. I had to move out to the suburbs. That's
okay. Yeah, you can walk to Zach's.
But when this is all over and once the Eagles have done their Super Bowl run, we can get together.
Okay,
For sure.
All right. Follow Matt Gelb. I mean, if you're this deep into the episode, you already know who he is. You're already paying attention. Wish him luck. Wish his family luck over the next week, and root for the Phillies. So, quick break, and then I think we've got like 5 minutes left to close the show because we have to have a second break contractually. So, please stick around. But if not, no sweat.
Sorry.
I'll admit it. It can be difficult finding a dress shirt. It's never the right size. It's either too loose or too tight. It's uncomfortable. And then you need to find a shirt that works in different settings for different activities. The dress shirt was due for a radical reinvention, and Rhone stepped up to the challenge. Rhone's commuter shirt is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible shirt known to man. And here's why. Rhone's comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to work to your 18 holes of golf. It's time to feel confident with a wrinkle-free shirt without the hassle. With Rhone's wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the shirt. It's that easy. With Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, you'll be smelling fresh and clean all day long. And on top of that, Rhone is 100% machine washable, so you can ditch the dry cleaning altogether. With Rhone, I'm looking for versatility, so I want a shirt that I can wear to work, but then I can wear out for dinner, or I can wear when I'm about to travel and get on the plane, and I want to feel fresh after wearing it all day. The commuter shirt can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to Rhone.com/BWF and use promo code BWF to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/BWF and use code BWF. It's time to find your corner office comfort. We're well in the football season now, and the kids are back in school. Getting back into your normal routine feels great. Managing meal prep with everything going on? Not so much. Skip all the mealtime stress with Freshly. Freshly's got lunch and dinner covered with fresh-made meals delivered right to your door. And now for a limited time, you can unlock exclusive end-of-summer savings and get $125 off across your first 5 orders. What I like most about Freshly is there's a huge variety of options. We have 4 eaters in this house, all who have different preferences. Freshly has something for everybody. Freshly delivers delicious, healthy meals to you. Get delicious, nutritious, prepared meals delivered right to your door. Fresh, not frozen, and ready to enjoy in just 3 minutes. No cooking, no dishes, no trips to the store. Having one less thing on your plate never tasted so good. Take advantage of Freshly's end-of-summer sale and score a special deal. $125 off your first 5 orders at freshly.com/birds when you order today. That's freshly.com/birds, freshly.com/birds for $125 off your first 5 orders.
All right. Welcome back to Birds with Friends. Bo, Zach, and Marissa. I forgot to say I'm wearing my Anthony Faust Memorial Tournament shirt from high school just to get some baseball bona fides out there for the baseball podcast. This is when we famously beat the Bronx School of Law and Government 40-0 in 3 innings.
Wow. What position did you play?
In that
don't
game,
get him started. We only have,
I played third base. I actually went 1-for-1 lefty in that game, which
Switch hitter.
This was my only at-bat lefty in all of high school, but the game was so out of hand that flared a single over the shortstop's head.
Wow.
How was your team?
How do you still have a shirt from high school?
I mean, trying to relive the glory years. Didn't I just tell you so that I could tell that story?
Yeah, I know, but I'm like, organizer, like few years old, donate.
Yes, that's.
I'm unfortunately not that way.
I have.
That's my life, I tell you.
I have some shirts from high school that will just mysteriously vanish. And
Yes.
Emily's like, yeah, I threw that one away.
Yeah.
I'm
Me
like,
too.
but that one has special memories, and no, it's
Wow,
no,
that's
no
tough.
special. Yeah.
Is it a Matt Walsh shirt by chance?
No, it's not a Matt Walsh shirt, but no, my baseball team was.
You know what? This is the last thing we can talk about, Zach, because we do need to get going. Your thoughts on your former nemesis getting benched?
Matt Ryan. Yeah, I mean,
and people wanted your take on the quarterback situation in New England too. So while we're talking quarterbacks,
okay. Well, so I'll start with the Colts one, and that's, I mean, how bad. And I would defer to Zach Kiefer. Zach Kiefer had a really good piece today that this has kind of been in the works for a bit. They've been talking about it behind the scenes.
I think there's a Sirianni influence here. I think they look at the Eagles offense. They're obviously paying attention to what happened when Sirianni left and what turned to that offense. And I think knowing that they have their offense is the worst in the league right now, or by different metrics, the worst or one of the top 3 worst. I think they're looking at it and thinking, if there's one thing we can get going now, this is maybe not exactly correct because how Jim Irsay's involvement. We don't know exactly the level of that and how mercurial he is. But if it is a football decision, I think it is based on they want to have a quarterback run game offense and hope that can help turn things around.
Yeah, I look at recent draft history and I say they've had, I believe, 8 first or second round picks in the past 4 years. I had to 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, in the past 4 seasons. And they have not used any of them on an offensive lineman. And look, it's the
invest in the least important positions.
I think Frank Reich's quote yesterday was an apt one that they failed Matt Ryan in the sense that they thought he was the perfect quarterback or they thought he was an ideal quarterback for a good run game and a good offensive line. And their offensive line is atrocious. And Zach Kiefer did a good job laying that out in the story today. And that's an organizational that like, I don't put that on the players. They did poor planning on their offensive line to create this situation. So given the roster,
careful though, because if you're going to give the players credit, if they get better, you have to also ding them if they're not good.
Well, no, but you probably think if they had Jeff Stoutland, they'd be 7-0 right now.
I bet they would have a better record.
A great piece, by the way, on I'll give credit to the Eagles website. Fran Duffy did a good
Fantastic.
kind of chalk talk, if you will, with Jeff Stoutland, and I give Fran credit there because obviously Stoutland's always insightful. Fran knew exactly what to ask and how.
I think those are maybe the best pieces of Eagles content whenever they come out is a Fran and Stout buddy comedy.
So credit there. But no, that I think to your point, I wouldn't say the Sirianni influence, but I think they see what their roster is and they need a quarterback who can move, and Sam Ellinger, he can move. But they did a bad job building that offensive line, and I think that's coming to bear right now. In New England, I got to admit, last night was the first time I really watched New England, and I was at a speaker for the early part of that, so I only got to see the second half.
Ooh.
I go to the Philadelphia Speaker Series. Last night was John Brennan, the former CIA director. So I went to hear him speak, and it was very
good spy
informative.
tips. Any good spy craft you can share?
I mean, there's a lot more to the CIA.
You can't share, duh.
Yeah.
It's a secret.
But yeah. I always every time the Eagles,
he's gonna pop out of here.
Every time the Eagles aren't playing and there's a speaker series, I go to the speaker series. And
Zach,
at the expense,
how do you have hours in the day? Like, I seriously like.
Well, last night, last night I didn't get to watch the first half of Monday Night Football, and so that I'm not well prepared for this conversation. I watched the second half, and I can tell you, like, I don't know what's going on in New England right now. That was a bad half that I saw. And I was listening actually in the car ride home to the game, and it didn't sound like the first half was much better. Although I did catch a Bailey's.
That was an explosive, exciting moment, man, when he first came in.
Yeah.
And then he was singing Stacy's mom on the sideline.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
I got a refrigerator guy who's waiting outside.
Oh,
Okay.
So we have
a 3:30 with our boss too. Yeah, we have a 3:30 with our boss. So, but we'll be back later this week.
Arthur Sulzenberger.
Okay. We'll be back later this week. A lot to discuss, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the Steelers game. We'll talk Kenny Pickett and what's going on with the Steelers right now, and more importantly, we'll talk about
And his
what
chicken
the Eagles
vodka wrap.
have brewing after the bye, and Lane Johnson's status. So, and we can also get into the contender conversation. We'll have a little bit from Tyler Dunn, who we were supposed to have on today. You'll get to hear all about tight ends. So, a lot to discuss next podcast. Looking forward to it. We'll be better next time than we were today.
I'm not promising that.
Isn't that what Tony
I thought it was a
Kornheiser
lovely
says?
conversation with Gelb.
Isn't that what Tony Kornheiser says at the end of every PTI? We'll be better tomorrow.
Well,
yeah, I like that.
I feel like that's, I can't promise that. Gelb was dynamic. I don't know what Tyler Dunn's bringing to the table.
Guy. I will see you on Zoom with our boss in about 5 minutes.
All right. So for Zach and Marissa and Uncle Phil, I'm Bo. We thank you for listening. And as always, we love you.